Hey guys, Scott Fishman here for Wrestling Inc. And coming off an amazing NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day, history was made kicking off NXT TakeOver with the first ever Dusty Rhodes Women's Tag Team Classic winners. Today we have one of those winners with us today, Dakota Kai. How are you today?
I'm good. Gosh, even with that intro and you saying it, it still hasn't really set in for me that even happened. But yeah, thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Take me back to that night. What did that evening mean to you? Tell me about the hours leading up to it, and just, you guys had such a great match. All four of you just really lived up to the anticipation and just everything that was built up for this tournament, and you guys breaking ground as the first ever women's Dusty Rhodes Classic winners.
Yeah, thank you. Gosh, that day was crazy, and we knew that we would be opening the show too, so there was a lot of responsibility in that aspect. But just going back 3 weeks to a month ago when they first announced that there would be a first ever Women's Dusty Classic, I think everyone involved in that tournament was super grateful and just overwhelmed. It was such an emotional thing that, was announced for us. And just another check in the box for, the women's evolution sort of movement that happened. So it meant a lot to all of us to be involved. And I know a lot of the girls in the locker room right now weren't necessarily involved with Dusty because unfortunately he passed before we could interact with him. But we only hear positive things, and his spirit is very much kept alive. And this was also just something else to sort of boost the NXT women's locker room too.
Did you get any words of advice before you went out there?
Well, Hunter and Sean, who are always right at Gorilla, they always tell us to go kill it. But it was really after the match, because we were the first match on the card too, Hunter did tell us that we really set the pace for the whole show, which means a lot because being the first match on the card there's a big responsibility there to open the show with a bang. But he also pulled Raquel and I aside after the match had finished and sort of told us something that was that meant a lot to both of us. That Dusty would have been proud of us tonight, and that was really heartwarming, and it meant a lot to both her and I that he said that to us. But yeah,
and it was quite a journey for you and Raquel. And as when it comes to these partnerships, you never know how long they're going to last. But you guys flourished during this whole process. Tell me kind of just the bond that you guys have, and just was there anything that you guys did to mark the occasion after you won? I know you had that photo with Triple H as well, Paul, to mark that was so. I always liken it to like a school principal who, with his students, is so proud of the brand and everyone a part of it. But tell me, just tell me, what did you guys do? Did you do anything to celebrate? I mean, with given the situation we're in right now, but I know you can't. It's not like you can go out and have a big party.
I mean, the picture. We didn't really have a lot of time because even though we were the first match on the card, we were pulled left and right for like different interviews, and obviously the photo shoot with Hannah, that sort of marks the occasion more than anything else could. I think the iconic Triple H photo. But I think so. Raquel and I were put together almost a year ago to the day. NXT TakeOver Portland was on the 16th of January last year. So I feel like everything came full circle. Her and my dynamic is also something that sets us apart from other teams a lot. So you've got her, the ultimate powerhouse. You got me, I utilize my strikes and speed. And we really complement each other well. Like that juxtaposition of styles has only worked in our favor. And I think over the past year, while we've had each other's back and while we've been there for each other with our sort of storylines or goals, like when I was going after Io, she was there for me. War Games happened, her last one standing match with Rhea, which was awesome. We've both been there for each other, but this is the first time that we've got to work together for something like this, of this magnitude. Something like the Dusty Classic is the first time we've really got to put our tag team on display, and it's all come full circle.
Yeah, for sure. And what I last time we spoke, you were just coming back from a big injury, and I think you were having that cage match with Tegan Knox. It's just amazing the physicality, given the serious injuries that you've had over the years. What's your kind of mindset when you approach matches? It seems like you're so fearless. I mean, is there any, what kind of gets you in the right headspace when it comes to knowing that those serious injuries happen and put you on the shelf after these opportunities, but you've been moving forward and being very consistent in the past year?
Yeah. So the biggest thing, that when I tore my ACL, that was the first time I've ever had a serious injury like that, which I had to undergo surgery and, be out for, it was about 8 to 9 months. And while the physical side of rehab is tough, that's so easy compared to the emotional and mental side of it. That's really where the struggle lies. And even after I came back and made my re-debut, my re-return onto NXT TV, you still are in such a weird mind space because you're worried, you're paranoid, you don't want to, have that happen again. And the risk of tearing your other ACL is actually a little bit higher just because you've rehabbed and strengthened the other knee so much that, there might not be evened out. Obviously, the WWE medical team makes sure that that's not a thing that happens, but there's always going to be that risk. But I think at the end of the day, the more I wrestled after I came back from my injury, I think you really have to put it at the back of your mind because I still want to be able to put on a great show. I still want to be able to tell these amazing stories, and more than anything, you want to make sure that your opponent is safe and that you're there for them. So I really couldn't afford to be paranoid or unsure. I had to be sure of myself because I feel like at the end of the day, that's the only thing that can break me out of that sort of mental struggle.
Right. Okay. And you talked about it earlier, just the strength of the women's division in NXT. There's such a high bar. I mean, it's arguably it is probably the most deep and consistently good women's division there is in all of pro wrestling. Tell me about just the locker room and how you guys take this responsibility and just kind of building on what you guys have created over the past few years.
So the women's locker room in NXT, while it's so deep with the talent and the crazy amount of skill, I think the thing that we have going for us and the reason why we are as successful as we are is because a lot of us are so selfless. At the end of the day, we want to put on the best story, the best show possible, and whatever that is, we're going to work together to do that. And obviously, we all trust each other 100%. But gosh, that room is so full, of crazily talented ladies. But at the end of the day, the reason we are so successful in terms of putting on great matches or telling the best stories is because everyone just cares for one another, and we genuinely are like a big family, which I think is key. Yeah.
Okay. And a lot of people anticipating now that you have won this opportunity, which also gives you and Raquel having this shot at now the Women's Tag Team Championship. Tell me about your thoughts on possibly facing Nia Jax to Shayna Baszler, who you have a lot of history with, Shayna in particular, and the possibility of maybe NXT and being represented at WrestleMania as well.
Oh, that would be amazing. First off, I'd never turn down a possible WrestleMania moment. But yeah, like you said, if it is Nia and Shayna that we are to face for the WWE Tag Team Championship, a lot of people are really, really familiar and remember our rivalry that we had at NXT, where we crossed paths multiple times, and the stories that were told there were just so. A lot of people call back to that, but along with that, I was actually Nia's first NXT match when she debuted. I was still on the independent scene as Evie, so I have history with both ladies, and I think it would be just such an amazing match. I feel like I would be looking forward to the moment that Raquel steps in the ring with Nia. I think that they're both such great powerhouses in their own right. I think that moment itself would be enough to really make this match happen. And at WrestleMania, that would be awesome.
Is that kind of what you would love to see, like that platform just for NXT? Last year, the first time the championship defended, so building on that. You get the sense that see a lot of NXT representation at the big show this year?
I really hope so. I know that the past year has been difficult for that to be something that should happen, but I think the only way to really elevate NXT further is to have, a lot more crossovers between the brands. SmackDown and Raw and NXT, they should combine more. I mean, a lot of people remember the Survivor Series that happened, when was it, 2019, when there was a lot of crossovers happening, and it was crazy. Like when NXT went to SmackDown for the first time and started causing ruckus, like people loved that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here to tell new and different stories that no one's ever seen before, and to tell them really well.
Well, and that you had your appearance at the Royal Rumble. I mean, as a fan, kind of take me to how that moment that for you. I mean, you've seen so many. It's just like a rite of passage for an NXT talent to be included in that Royal Rumble.
Yeah, it really is. I was in last year's Royal Rumble 2, the 2021, when we had the crowd and the fans.
Yeah.
So that was crazy. The entrance itself is really, like, that's all that matters. As soon as you step out and hear, like, all those people, that was an insane moment to me. Like, the rest of whatever I did didn't really matter at that point. That was definitely a goal checked off the bucket list. Because Royal Rumble is definitely one of those pay-per-views that you watch when you're a kid and you're just like, this is crazy. So actually being in one was very, very overwhelming to me. And also being a part of this year's one, with the different circumstances, it's still very much like a rite of passage, like you said, for NXT talent to do something like that. And while there weren't as many representing the black and yellow brand this year, it was still a very cool moment, even given the different circumstances.
For sure. And then the last couple of weeks, WWE made the big announcement that WWE Network was migrating to Peacock, which is going to open up the door for a lot of accessibility for a lot of people, including takeovers, which have been such a staple for NXT and in pro wrestling in general, just to see how great these events are. What are your thoughts on, more people having access to these takeover events and having that maybe open the door to more fans for NXT on Peacock?
Oh, it's only going to do good for NXT, all the brands, but yeah, NXT could really benefit from being opened up to a whole new, different fan base. Takeovers are amazing. Every time there is a takeover, we blow the roof off. So for that show to be accessed by a whole new audience is only going to do good things, I think.
Okay. And lastly, as we head into now this new, feels almost like this takeover kind of has ushered in a new era in many ways. New stories are shaping up. New faces are getting opportunities. Now you guys are in the number one contender spot for the Women's Tag Team Championship. What are your thoughts on as we move over into this next phase, heading into after everything that's happened at Vengeance with you and Raquel? You have this renewed confidence. I mean, what do you want to see from NXT as a brand in the next couple of months, and then yourselves, specifically also in the women's division?
I definitely think that NXT Women's Division has been great, but there's a lot of really talented girls that haven't been given the opportunity to be on TV, let alone like TakeOver. So I think giving them more opportunities to really do that can only strengthen our division more and give them opportunities to shine and really get their name out there. I think with winning the Dusty Classic and being, able to have a shot at the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships, that will only strengthen the brand too. So everything that we do is always step forward in sort of elevating our brand as a whole and elevating the women's division as a whole, because, there's always going to be the things that happen when girls from NXT get called to Raw, called to SmackDown. So we have to constantly keep raising the division and making sure that it is going to stay as strong as it is for a long, long time.
Any names that you come to mind when you think of those faces that we haven't seen on the shows as much?
Well, there's a whole bunch of new girls that were just signed, but even girls that have been there a long time, like Casey Catanzaro, Kaden Carter. They've been featured a little bit, but I feel like they could really do with more TV time to, put their skills out there, but also help themselves too with their confidence and how they portray themselves on TV. Indy Hartwell has been given the opportunity to be grouped with The Way, which is only going to help her too, as not only as within that stable, but as a singles competitor too. So there's a whole bunch of girls. Obviously, all the new girls that were just signed. There's just so much talent there. But there's also a lot of girls that have been there for a long time that could probably do with a little bit more exposure, for sure.
Such a good mix. And with you back, now you're one of the more experienced ones, so it's almost interesting to see that come full circle moment. And now you kind of helping on the next generation.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Dakota. Dakota, I really appreciate the time, and congratulations on winning. And we look forward to seeing what happens with you in the women's tag team division.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott.